India was the 10th largest economy in the world. 10th. Today, India is the 5th largest economy.
Since the past 5 years, India has been trying very hard to compete with the Chinese economy. And whenever we speak about competing with China, the Indian media houses often talk about how the Chinese population is shrinking.
तो देखिए चीन की आबादी अब कैसे नीचे जाएगी इस ग्राफ में आप देख सकते हैं.
And how our population is growing.
भारत दुनिया का सबसे ज्यादा आबादी वाला देश बन जाए.
How their population is aging and our population is young and strong.
कि भारत में यंग फोर्स ज्यादा है.
बूढ़ी होती आबादी चीन के लिए किसी आपदा से कम नहीं.
And every other media house is selling us a dream that India will surpass the Chinese economy in the next few decades.
India is slowly but steadily replacing China in almost every metric.
भारतीय इकोनॉमी अगले 7 साल में दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी बनने के लिए तैयार है.
But you know what, guys? One of the most important metrics that China has mastered and India severely lags is the logistical superpower of the country. And I'm so sorry to say this, but the Indian logistics system is disastrously broken.
58% फ्रेट सिर्फ 16% नेटवर्क पे चल रहा है और ये ओवर सैचुरेट हो चुका था कि यदि कैपेसिटी सपोज दिन में 100 ट्रेन चलाने की है तो ऑलरेडी 120 ट्रेन चल रही हैं.
You don't believe me? Let's give you a test. These are free trains that carry a huge amount of goods from one part of the country to the other part of the country. They are essentially the lifeline of Indian trade because they carry millions of dollars worth of goods. Now my question to you is, what do you think would be the average speed of these free trains in India? 100, 60, 50 or 25 kilometers per hour? What would be your choice? You know, I thought it's 60 kilometers per hour. But you know what, guys? It is just 25 kilometers per hour. That's right. The free trains in India move slower than your Activa. And this points towards a very, very critical problem which will stifle India's growth in the next 3 decades. This is the reason why India is building something called the dedicated freight corridors.
डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर 21वीं सदी में गेम चेंजर के रूप में देखा जा रहा है.
आने वाले दिनों की अगर हम बात करें तो पूरी तरह से मालगाड़ियां डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर में चलेंगी.
हेवियर, हायर, लॉन्गर एंड स्पीडियर, ये हमारा मेन मोटो है.
अगर हम लोग भारी, लंबी और तेज गाड़ियां चलाते हैं तो पर यूनिट जो हमारी लॉजिस्टिक्स कॉस्ट है वो नेचुरली कम हो जाएगी.
So in this case study, let's dig deep and try to understand why is the Indian free train system so messed up? How is this hampering the growth of our country? What is India doing to fix this problem? And most importantly, as students of business, what are the study materials to help you understand this logistical nightmare of India? Chalo, as usual, let's start from the basics and understand why is the Indian train system so messed up. Firstly, the existing rail transport in India is so oversaturated that if a manufacturer in Dadri in UP wants to transport his goods to JNPT port and then ship it to Europe, currently the Delhi-Mumbai rail line is operating with a load of 115 to 150% of its capacity. This means if the rail lines were originally built for 100 trains, now anywhere between 115 to 150 trains are using it. This includes both passenger as well as free trains. And whenever there is a clash in schedule between a passenger train and a free train, the Indian railway system always lets the passenger train go first. This is the reason why free trains in India sometimes need to halt for 2 to 3 days at a remote station just to allow the passenger trains to pass. And because of this, free trains are not punctual, they do not have a timetable and they often run at very low speeds. This is the reason why our free trains run at such slow speeds that their average speed is just 25 kilometers per hour. And if you look at the impact of this slow movement on the economy of India, it is absolutely crazy. This is where a huge difference of something called capital rotation comes in. In simple words, when you invest your money or capital to manufacture and sell your products, the money that you get back is then reinvested in the business for the next round of manufacturing. This cycle of investment, revenue and reinvestment is called capital rotation. So if you can rotate your capital faster than your competitor, you can make more profits in spite of making the exact same product with the exact same profit margin. Now this might sound complex, so let's try to understand this using an example and see how free speech play a critical role to put the Chinese way ahead of the Indians. Let's say there are two traders, one from India and another from China. Both are selling products that cost $5,000 to manufacture and are sold for $7,000. Both of them send 10,000 units in a shipping cycle to Europe, and both have their ports that are 1,500 kilometers far away from their manufacturing units. So in each cycle, both ship $50 million worth of products and sell them at $70 million. This means the profit per cycle is $20 million. So after the goods are sold at the port, both the traders will reinvest the money into the next cycle of manufacturing. But the catch over here is that while the Chinese freight speed is 45 km per hour, the Indian freight speed is only 25 km per hour. So now let's see how this makes a huge difference in the profits of these companies. While the Indian trader's freight travels at 25 km per hour, it takes the trader 60 hours to reach the port, that's 1500 km far away. On the other hand, when the Chinese trader's freight moves at 45 km per hour, it reaches the shore in just 33.33 hours. So, assuming an operational time of 8,760 hours per year, the Indian trader can complete 8,760 hours divided by 60, which comes to 146 cycles a year. But in the same year, the Chinese trader will be able to complete 8,760 divided by 33.33 hours, which is 263 cycles per year. So now, if you consider $20 million in profits per cycle, while the annual profit of an Indian trader is $2.92 billion, the Chinese trader with a faster freight can complete 263 cycles and make an annual profit of $5.26 billion. So do you see, that's an 80% difference in profits. So when there is a huge gap in profits, the Chinese vendor can easily give a discount and sell their products at a much cheaper rate. This is the huge difference that a freight speed change of 20 km per hour can make on the profits of the company and the trade competitiveness of two countries in the same market with the same product cost. Now some people over here might say, bro, what if the rail is not being used? It's no big deal. That is why the government is building expressways and highways now. So why can't we just use these highways? Well, that is exactly what is happening. If you look at this chart, the share of road transport in freight has increased drastically over railways. While in the 1950s, 88% of the goods were moved by railways, only 12% moved by roadways. And now, it has completely reversed to 74% roadways and just 26% railways. But you know what guys, it's not a good thing at all. If you look at this chart, the developed nations have more rail transport and less road transport, and only India does the complete opposite of it, where we ship more goods by road than by rail. Now the question is, why is this a problem? Well, that is because transporting goods by road is far more expensive than railways. While it costs 2.5 rupees per ton per kilometer to transport goods by road, by water it costs 1.06 rupees and by rail it costs only 1.36 rupees. So rail is 83% cheaper than road. And because we use road, our transportation costs are very high. In India, logistic costs are 2.5 to 3.5% of the sales costs, whereas the global average is just 0.8 to 1.5%. Secondly, transporting goods by trucks is far more environmentally damaging than rail. While the emissions from trucks result into 111 grams of CO2 per kilometer, by trains it's just 17 grams of CO2 per kilometer. So trucks emit 6 times more CO2 as compared to rail. So if we keep on using road transport, when the world starts imposing carbon tax, our goods will become costly in the international market. And more importantly, India has pledged to achieve net zero emissions by 2070. So now, we don't just have to do things economically, but also in a carbon neutral manner. These are the problems and constraints of the Indian railway system. So the question is, what is India doing to solve this problem? Well, this is where the government of India is launching something called the dedicated freight corridors.
India's most ambitious railway project ever.
डेडिकेटेड फ्रेट कॉरिडोर के इस प्रोजेक्ट को 21वीं सदी में भारत के लिए गेम चेंजर के रूप में देखा जा रहा है.
This is a special lane for just big cargo trains, and passenger trains are not allowed these tracks at all. And the government of India plans to make 6 such special lanes across the country. The first one under construction is in the west from Haryana to Maharashtra, and the second one runs in the east from Punjab to West Bengal. And the next 4 in the pipeline will cover the north to south region and go from Delhi to Tamil Nadu, east-west region to go from West Bengal to Maharashtra, east-south region to go from West Bengal to Andhra Pradesh, and lastly from Tamil Nadu to Goa. And as you can see in this map, these corridors connect the hinterlands of India to the major ports of India like JNPT, Vijayawada and Kolkata. And the total amount that India is investing in this project is more than 80,000 crores. Secondly, if you look at this chart, the dedicated freight corridors are built in such a way that the axle load per wagon has increased by 30% from 22.5 tons to 25 tons. The train load has been doubled from 5,400 tons to 12,000 tons. And the train length has also been doubled from 700 meters to 1,500 meters. And this brings us to the next question as to how will this project solve the problems and improve India's ease of doing business? Well, firstly, once these corridors are built, the share of rail as a mode of transportation is expected to increase to 44% by the end of 2051. Secondly, as the share of rail increases, the export cycle will be faster for manufacturers. And when the speed of freight increases from 25 km per hour to 70 km per hour, it will be a huge boost to the Indian manufacturing sector. For example, from Dadri to Mundra port on the western corridor, transportation time has already reduced from 70 hours to just 30 hours. Thirdly, the dedicated freight corridor alone will reduce the congestion from Indian railways by 70%. This means not only will the speed of freight increase, but even the current trains like Vande Bharat and Rajdhani can run at faster speeds. Fourthly, it will reduce the cost of transportation in India significantly. Today, logistics cost in India is so high that the global average stands at 6% and India stands at 13 to 15% of the product cost. And lastly, simply due to the decongestion of roads along the highways, India will save 4.9 billion rupees in just logistics cost. These are the benefits that freight corridors will bring to the Indian logistics industry. And the fun fact is that these changes have already become visible. India's first public-private port, APM Terminals Pipavav, handles LPG shipments from HP, IOC and Bharat Petroleum. But back in the old days, these shipments used to travel by road. But now, the port has connected itself to the freight corridor with a 250-kilometer railway line. So now, all the shipments of LPG are transported by rail. Secondly, the dedicated freight corridors have already started helping India with its energy security. Now the question is, how could trains help India with energy security? Well, as it turns out, in April 2022, India was facing massive power outages. This was due to a sharp decline in the coal stocks at our thermal power plants. But you know what? This is where, using the dedicated freight corridors, the government rushed the supply of coals from the mines in the eastern part of the country to the north and western part of the country at half the time. So had these corridors not been there, there could have been a nationwide power crisis. These corridors, combined with the Golden Quadrilateral and the Sagarmala project, are strengthening India's infra and logistics very, very quickly. This is the reason why Reliance, L&T, Adani and even the Tatas are very heavily investing around these major projects. So in conclusion, India's infrastructure is on a roll. And also guys, if you want to invest in India's growth story, a great way to invest would be by investing in a category of mutual funds called infrastructure funds. There are a variety of infrastructure funds available from various mutual fund companies like ICICI Prudential, HDFC, Aditya Birla, Kotak and many more. And you can find the full list of schemes available in the infra theme on your screen. So moral of the story is that the dedicated freight corridors will change the face of India and our economy will beat China very soon, right? Well, not so soon, because this is where we have some critical challenges that our politicians need to overcome to build these freight corridors. And here's where your role as a citizen of the country comes in. Firstly, just like any other government project in India, this crucial piece of infrastructure has been delayed not once, not twice, but 5 freaking times. And this is where the second challenge comes in. If you look at this chart, in 2006, the original estimated cost of the project was 21,140 crores. But now, after the delay, as of 2021, the cost has shot up to 95,238 crores. This is because the implementation is so slow that we are building only 600 meters of rail a day. And at the same time, our roads are getting built at 37 kilometers per day. And lastly, as our government moves slowly and sleeps on these projects, our competitor China is already building a super advanced technology. In 2020, as India slowly moved on this corridor whose maximum speed is 75 kilometers per hour, China rolled out a bullet train freight with a maximum speed of 350 kilometers per hour. It's literally the world's first freight bullet train. In 2022, as India was moving like a snail with its corridor projects, the Chinese trains have already become operational. While we struggle to connect the towns within India, China is not just connecting its own states and towns, but also other countries like Vietnam, Laos, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, Iran, Hungary, Netherlands, Germany, and even Italy in Europe. So now what remains to be seen is whether our politicians will execute these projects well or let it remain as yet another marketing gimmick to win the elections. And here's where your role as the people of the country comes in. This is the story, vision, benefit, the present condition and the challenges of the free train logistics of India. And I just hope you learned something valuable from this case study. That's all from my side for today, guys. If you learned something valuable, please make sure to hit the like button in order to make YouTube Baba happy. And for more such insightful business and political case studies, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.